Welcome to the Wrestling with Legends podcast. Our guest today, Doug Basham of the world famous Basham Brothers. You guys remember them quite well from WWE, also known they're part of the cabinet. We're going to get to all that in a little bit. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thanks for having me, man. Pleasure.
Oh, yeah. No, pleasure's all mine. So I got to ask you right away, a little bit of confusion on my part. Are you from Ohio or Kentucky?
I am from Indiana.
Not even close. All right.
Yeah, no, right in the neighbor. You missed it.
Yeah. Well, because I was doing a little bit of research, and for whatever reason, I remember them from. I thought they said you were from either Kentucky or Ohio when you were coming to the ring, but years ago.
Well, Vince McMahon wanted to have somebody from the state of Ohio, so they said that me and Danny were from Columbus, Ohio. And we were like, okay, how many zeros are in that check? We'll be from Ohio.
Exactly. And I mean, I'm from Cleveland. You can look behind me and see all the
stuff. I can see it.
Even over here, I don't know.
Yeah, man.
On the door. So I was like, man, this is going to be an Ohio guy, OHIO. Not even close. We're talking to a Hoosier, but that's okay.
That's right.
So I did want to ask you, though, because people who followed your career, a lot of people know about OVW, which before there was an NXT, there was an OVW, which really to me was like a version of an NXT is now.
Yeah.
There, though, you did a lot in singles. So when you got called up to the WWE, was there much talk about you debuting as a single star, or was it just set in stone that if you were going to be on the main roster, you had to be in a tag team?
Well, it's funny how I got called up. And of course, I was in the developmental system for about a year and a half. And then OVW used to have their arena in Indiana. And then Danny moved it from Indiana over to Shepherdsville. He opened the Davis Arena in Shepherdsville Road, 4400 Shepherdsville Road in Louisville, Kentucky. And that first show was called Fall Brawl. And I was supposed to wrestle Brock Lesnar. And that's when Brock was the heavyweight, or he was the champion. WWE's, I forget, with the Unified Champion or whatever the title was. And then Vince McMahon he goes, no, I'm not sending my champion down to wrestle, a developmental guy. So they brought in Christ Benoit instead to stand in for him. And went out there and I rocked the house with Christ Benoit. And Jim Ross was there with Jim Cornette doing commentary. And Jim Ross was head of talent relations. So he saw that I did, such a good job with Christ Benoit that they moved me up on the road to take a look and let me wrestle some of the guys that are on the active roster. So initially they brought me up to take a look at me. And then when I was there, Jim Cornette was pushing for both me and Danny to be a tag team because, we were a pretty good tag team as well. So then after I was up there for about 3 weeks, I guess, as singles, I went home, sat at home for a couple of weeks, and then they brought me and Danny up and gave us a shot. And then we passed the test, and the rest is history. That's how that kind of happened.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned it, his name. I've been doing this, we've had over 50 guests on, right? You're the first one to mention the name Christ Benoit. I'm not going to ask you a million questions. It's none of my business, right? But it's like that forbidden topic. It's like, I had met him 3 times. Every time I met him was as a fan. He would always stop, take a picture, talk a little bit. In fact, I think I have a picture with you somewhere too. But like, what was he like to work around? I'm just curious because he seemed like a real quiet guy, but normal. Was Christ Benoit a normal guy?
Yeah, he was a normal guy. I mean, he was kind of quiet to himself, but working with him, he was a professional in the ring. I mean, it was physical, and he hit you hard, but he expected it back, but he never hurt anybody. And he was just so intense in the ring. And he carried that intensity and that demeanor with him everywhere he went. That was just him. Not getting into, what he did after that and judging a guy about what he did and all that. I'm not going to get into that, but just when what I knew of him, when I worked with him, he was a professional, and he was one of the guys I always looked forward to working with whenever I was up there.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And like I said, I wasn't even planning on asking that. That's you're the first guy to bring him up. So I was like, I might as well throw that out there. And we're going to get to, the Guerreros right about now. Actually, that was the next question. So less than 6 months on the main roster, right? Your brother and yourself defeated the Los Guerreros for the WWE Tag Team Championships. This was in a day in the WWE where tag teams were actually pretty good. Not just because you guys looked like each other, but this is when, teams would dress alike, right? You knew they were a team. It wasn't just two single stars always smashed together like it is now. That's why I feel it doesn't work. But during this run, you guys were about 6 months on the main roster. You get a win for the championships over the Guerreros. Obviously, Eddie Guerrero, one of the greatest of all time, in my opinion. What was that feeling like, and how much confidence did it give you knowing that they gave you such a quick push like that?
Well, it's always a good feeling whenever a company, especially the WWE, puts the titles on you, because they're like, here you go, boys. This is we're going to see what you guys got. You guys have proved yourself. Now run with, you have the ball. Now run with it. And that's kind of what Eddie Guerrero said whenever we finished. And after the match, we were waiting for him and Chavo in the hallway as we're coming back. And, we said, thank you. And Eddie comes up and gives me a big hug, and said, you're the champs now. Congratulations. You earned it. Now run with it, making them proud. And working with Eddie and Chavo, because we were like married to him for such a long time, married meaning we always worked with them on all the house shows, and they were so fun and so easy. I mean, we had a really good time in there with them. And actually I learned, at that point when I made it to the WWE, I had been in wrestling for 10 years. So I thought I pretty much knew what I was doing, and I did. I was pretty good, I thought, but that was a whole nother class in session when you moved up to there. It's like moving from high school to college or college to pro. They were good, man, and I learned a lot. So work with them were great.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that too, because that was actually my next question. You already addressed it, so thank you. I was going to say, what was it like working with Eddie Guerrero? Again, for me, I'm 40 years old, so I've been watching wrestling 35 plus years, back to the Saturday Night's Main Event days, right? And Eddie Guerrero was one of those guys, because I'm small. I'm only like 5'6". So every time there's a guy, on the shorter stature, whatever, that could tear it down like he did, and like Benoit, you said earlier, it's so easy to root for those guys. So I just thought you guys had tremendous chemistry, and I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. There was one thing about your angle that I didn't particularly care for, but you guys don't make the decisions, right? So I wanted to ask you about this, because your in-ring talent was incredible, but you come out to the ring with Linda Miles, who is a former college basketball player. She's athletic as hell, right? You can see from the smile, you already know where I'm going with this. What's with the bondage gimmick? Like, what? Whose brainchild was that?
Oh man, one of the writers, the WWE hires kids out of college, and they're just kids, and they're trying to, I guess, get experience in writing for movies, sure, sitcoms, and all that. So they hire writers, and one of these young kids went to a Britney Spears concert, and Britney Spears was dressed like a dominatrix, and she had all her dancers were male dancers dressed in black leather pants. So this writer thought it would be a great idea, because me and Danny wore black leather pants, to put a dominatrix with us, and voila, there it is.
Okay. Yeah. To me, I'm like, man, these guys could really go. They're an excellent tag team. If anybody had half a brain, they were watching, what was it called? Tough Enough. So people were tough enough, so they knew of her athletic background and playing basketball and everything else. And I was just like, yeah, So I just wanted to throw that out there. Why do you think she left after? I mean, because Linda was there about a year, and then she left. I forget what I actually completely forget what her screen name was. I don't know, Shaniqua or something, right?
Shaniqua, yeah.
Yeah, and like, why do you think like she? I mean, do you feel like that just gave her a bad taste in her mouth right away, and she said the hell with it?
Linda was, and I can't speak for her. I can only give you what I think, because we did ride up and down the road with her a lot, and we got to know her a little bit. I think she was just so competitive in nature, being a college star athlete, that she saw this tough enough opportunity as a challenge, something that she win, and she won, because she really didn't have wrestling in her heart. Like most everybody who gets into wrestling, you live it, you breathe it, you watched it growing up, and Linda really didn't do that. She was just a competitor, and she went out there and she won. And then when she won, she was probably thinking, oh crap, I won. I guess I got to wrestle now. But, you know, she gave it her best go. And I think she just didn't have the heart, you know, for it. And then when she was with us, I think Vince McMahon just kind of saw that maybe she just wasn't, you know, ready to move on as a singles competitor when they split all of us up. Sent her back down to OVW for more training. And then she just said, you know, I've had enough.
Yeah, I just think it's amazing because all the real athletes that came off that show, and what I mean by real is people with an amateur background, right? Playing college sports, didn't do anything, which is shocking to me. Like a guy like Daniel Puder went nowhere. She didn't last. And then you get a guy who was strictly a reality TV star like The Miz, and my God, I mean, to the moon he went. So crazy.
Yeah, but the Miz was a wrestling fan since he was a kid. You know that. And biggest wrestling fans sometimes make the best professional wrestlers, you know?
Yeah. Well, what's ironic about him, I'll throw this out there because, again, you see all the Cleveland stuff in the background. We live like, well, not now, he lives in California, but growing up, we're the same age. Me and Mike Mazanin lived about 15 minutes apart. So he lives in Parma, Ohio. I grew up in North Olmsted. Same with Dolph Ziggler, Nick Nemeth. Nick Nemeth was a beast. And he went to St. Edwards, one of the greatest wrestlers to ever come out of St. Edwards. Then he went to Kent State. That's another guy that I feel like the WWE could have did a lot more with if they really focused. Because, I mean, he wasn't on the Kurt Angle level, but this was a guy in Nick Nemeth who was just absolutely incredible amateur skills. But moving on, because I want to keep things about you. You know, this is a storyline I remember very well, and I actually liked it a lot. You were part of the cabinet. And, you know, going in to this angle with a guy like JBL, how much mentorship was he able to give you? Was there like a real bond behind the scenes with JBL, Justin Bradshaw Layfield? Because it seemed like there was. Like, you guys had a really good on-air chemistry. What was that experience like with all them?
Well, I met JBL or John when he came down to Ohio Valley Wrestling to rehab. I think he had broke his forearm or something like that. So he had come back. Him and Ron came down to OVW to get, you know, ring shape back, and that's where I met JBL. And then he found out that I was Danny's nephew, and then just kind of took a liking to me. I don't know why. We just kind of, sometimes you just get along with guys, and sometimes you don't. And he was one of those guys that I got along with. And I don't know if it was mainly because I was Danny's nephew, or if he just, you know, thought I was a good kid and liked me and wanted to help me. So when we moved up, and he moved on, and they went on, and then finally, eventually, me and Danny moved up, and JBL would, you know, there was always that one guy in the locker room, you know, like even in college or high school or pro, you know, you get a little freshmen get hazed a little bit. Sure. JBL, one of those guys that would haze you, and he did to me too. He did to everybody, and it's all how you handle yourself and conduct yourself, and how you handle the hazing, as which will determine if you're accepted into the locker room or not, you know. And, you know, I passed. And then whenever we did this Tough Enough competition where me and Danny had to stop these kids from getting the flag,
yeah.
Or Bradshaw and Undertaker spoke to Vince and spoke up for us. And JBL wanted to put us with him as a, you know, reward, because we stopped those guys. We didn't embarrass ourselves. We didn't embarrass the company. We stopped those kids and represented ourselves well. And he saw that, Undertaker saw that, Vince saw that, and said, yeah, let's reward those boys. And he took us under his wing and helped us out a lot during that run with the cabinet. Even though we were just JBL's crash test dummies most of the time, it didn't matter to me, man. We got to work with all the top guys. We were in the main events. We made a lot of money, and it was probably the highlight of my career in WWE.
No, I completely believe it too. And, you know, again, watching that, like I said, there was a definite on-air chemistry. I enjoyed a lot of it. One of the things I enjoyed the most, quite frankly, was WrestleMania 21 and the build up to that of JBL dropping the strap to John Cena. Two different things here, guys. I'm watching at home. You know, JBL was champion for about 10 months. He had taken the belt off Eddie Guerrero that past summer, which is huge in itself. And then, you know, John Cena was this up-and-comer kind of guy that, you know, we didn't know if he was going to stick or not. And he becomes one of the greatest of all time, again, in my opinion. so going into all of that whole storyline, because you guys were working with them like crazy. Also, Orlando Jordan was there working with y'all. What was John Cena like? Because to me, this is a guy that I've met about 3 times, and every time as nice as can be and seemed genuine too. Wasn't just, to me, it didn't seem too fake. But what was, your relationship with John Cena basically?
Yeah, me and John got along well. When he first came into OVW, to a point you made about WrestleMania 21 when he won the title or dropped the title. I think he dropped it to Cena, right? Yep. JBL had, nobody knows this, but JBL had brought up the idea of all the cabinet having all the gold going into WrestleMania 21, and then all of us losing it after in WrestleMania 21. And
Sure.
that didn't happen. Dang it! But that would have been a great idea, and I would have loved every minute of that. Because JBL was the champion. Orlando would have been the United States champion, and then me and Danny were the tag champions. And I thought that would have been a great storyline. Then after WrestleMania 21, JBL gets all mad, and then we just quit the cabinet and say, "See ya,"
Yeah.
But so that's just some extra information for the people watching. Some inside scoop. Obviously that didn't happen, but working with John and whenever John got moved up, he was in OVW, he was the prototype, and then he moved up to WWE and did the ruthless aggression wearing his same trunks, and then he transitioned into the rapper guy, and then moved on to whatever he became after that, just super popular. When I first moved up and was doing singles matches, when they were taking a look at me when I had my mullet still, me and John, we rode up and down the road together, and because in OVW we were friends, and I wrestled with him, worked with him, practiced with him, saw these guys a lot more than I saw my my immediate family. Sure. But nice guy, genuine, humble, pretty humble. He passed all the tests and did what a lot of guys couldn't do, man. He broke through that glass ceiling and became a superstar and was the face of the company for quite some time. So, kudos to John Cena on that. Now look at him, he's a movie star now.
He did the right things, kept his word, showed up on time, worked hard, and lived what he preached, which is something we do here at Key on Sports. And that's how you gain the following. So a couple more questions for you. Thank you for taking a quick moment out of here of your day.
No worries.
Couple more like current questions. So again, like I said, I kind of aged myself earlier. Being 40 years old, I grew up with Hulk Hogan having the championship for like 3 years. Even before that, like Bob Backlund had it for years, and going into history, they used to do a thing in WWE or WWF at the time where the world champion was the world champion for years, right? It wasn't like a quick turnaround. They're doing that right now with Roman Reigns, and I absolutely love it. I'm a huge Roman Reigns mark, quite frankly. The insider term for everybody, Mark. So, which I thought at one time calling this podcast "I'm Not a Mark" podcast, and more wrestlers would come on it. Yeah, yeah, right. I've always thought if they put my name into a Google search, they're gonna realize that Key on Sports is extremely legitimate. Vince McKee, 10 published books, all that crap. But 9 times out of 10, a professional athlete's gonna check their phone and be like, "Never heard of this guy." Next, so it's nice that I've been able to get that people come on the show. Anyways, Roman Reigns, good idea, bad idea to continue this reign that he's on, because that's 2+ years at this point.
Oh, good idea, great idea. I'm old school, man. I like old school way of thinking and old school writing. Today's wrestling is so shotgun, it seemed like, and things don't last and they move so quick. And the time you start watching, time I start to get into the story, it's already over. And I'm like you. I'm 50. I just turned 50 May 12th, actually. So the Wikipedia page is wrong. I was born in 72, not 71. And I live in Indiana, not Kentucky. But I old school thinking, man. Back in the day when those storylines used to last 3 months, 6 months, man. So I think it's a good idea. I like it.
I do too. Speaking of that, then wanted to ask you. There is. Well, first of all, you had a quick jaunt in TNA after the WWE stuff was done. And this is not asking you to knock anybody. Don't worry about that. But like when you were in Impact and stuff like that, like, can you tell the difference? Like, was it noticeable like how things were run, like professionally, the crowd sizes, the touring. Is there a giant drop off from WWE to Impact?
Man, and the feeling at Impact was different. You didn't feel like you were walking on eggshells there and afraid you're going to lose your job. And it was a everybody seemed like they were a lot. I don't know, just seemed closer, a little closer knit locker room.
Really?
Because everybody was a part of a company. When I was there, I was only there for 3 months, but I just got that feeling. And then at that point, Gail was there, so I got that feeling of everybody's there for one reason and one reason only, and that's to build a company, build a new company and a new place to go to have so people could go wrestle. And I was glad to be a part of that for 3 months, but we didn't quite cut the mold there at TNA, and it was good. I was only there for 3 months, loved it, and it was great. And then went on to travel the world after that for a couple of years before I finally hung my boots up.
Last question for you again. Want to thank you for taking the time today. It's been a blast. I always love talking to a fellow Buckeye.
I asked a guy from Ohio once. I said, "What is a Buckeye?" He told me it was a useless nut.
Yeah, that's all it is. Yeah. That's a good.
He said, "Who's your daddy?" And I go, "Okay, touche. You got me."
It's a really good piece of candy. They have things called Buckeyes, which is chocolate with the peanut butter in the middle. And, like you said, like when I turned, I think like 35, I lost my metabolism, so I stopped having put whatever I wanted in my mouth. Those were good. Last question for you too. Growing up for me, a big deal was WCW versus WWF. The Monday Night Wars were a blast. I loved it.
Me too.
We have a blog. I write about them all the time. But that being said, do you think that the AEW All Elite could get to the level of a WCW where they could compete on Monday nights? Meaning, that the WWE will run Raw, they'll run Dynamite or whatever. Do you think they could do that? Because to me, they have the stars to do it. I just, I don't know if they have the leadership yet. But what do you think about that?
Well, I think competition is always good, and I'm glad to see it. I'm glad that somebody is there trying to be the next big thing, or be take over, not be the king of the mountain, And they do have a lot of talent and a lot of stars there, and they're building people. And are they competition? Yeah, I think they kind of are. I would say, yeah. They're great. I keep an eye on some of this stuff. You got two sets of fans. You've got WWE fans and you got AEW fans, and some will watch both AEW and WWE, and some just goes one way or the other. I still think that AEW may have a little, they have some work to do, but I'm glad they're there. I'm glad because the more places there is to go work, the better for the guys, better for the professional athletes or professional wrestlers.
Sure.
And I think, yes, I think they will and can be competition. I think they kind of are already a little bit.
Oh, yeah, add-on question to that then. Chris Jericho, do you think what Chris Jericho has done with AEW helped getting them off the ground like he has, and just reinvented himself a million times over? Chris Jericho, do you feel what he's done in AEW has kind of solidified him as one of the greats?
I think being one of the first guys to jump over was a surprise and a shock. Like, oh man, and
yeah,
it did help the brand and help get them off the ground. So, and Chris, I know Chris is a great guy. He really is. So I wouldn't say anything bad about him, other than when he was. I think he tried to change his look, and boy, he was looking hefty.
Yeah.
He's getting back. He's back in shape now, looking really good, man. And I would say he's one of the greats. Yeah.
Yeah, one of my favorites.
He made that jump from WCW to WWE, and then was the first dual, unified champion. And then he's had a long, great career, man. He's a good guy. He's a good guy.
Oh, absolutely. I don't tweet at many wrestlers. I actually tweeted at him though last year. Daughter, who was 7 at the time, won her first track meet. So she had ran in the 100 meters. She won it. We went out to dinner. I just happened to have an AEW hoodie on. I wasn't even thinking that I had it on, right? But I tweeted at him because Chris Jericho is one of my favorites. Truth be told, him and Bret Hart and Kurt Angle, like my big three. But he had tweeted and said, "Hey Chris, she won," or she's all elite or something, thinking like he's never gonna see it. Not only did he get it, he retweets it, sends out a congratulations message to Maggie. It's just so cool. I'm like, who would do that, right? So very cool stuff. But hey, man, I want to thank you again for coming on the show today. We appreciate it, and we'll stay in touch. And I wish you the best.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Can I say a couple things before we go?
Please say as much as you want.
Yeah, currently right now, I've just over the past couple of years, I've gotten back into the wrestling scene because I kind of took a break. And currently I'm now here at Ohio Valley Wrestling with Al Snow.
Oh, nice.
And I'm the head trainer at the Ohio Valley Wrestling School, Al Snow Wrestling Academy right here. So my careers kind of went full circle. I started at Ohio Valley Wrestling, went and had my career, retired, and then got back into it. So, I started here, went and came all back around and helping these kids try to get to the WWE and the AEW. And our show comes on every Thursday night. You can catch it on the Fight TV network from 7 to 9. Or if you're here locally, you can catch it on some of your local channels. And then we're getting ready to start our summer tour. We start next week, and anybody can go to obwrestling.com and check out our schedule and come see it live. And if you do, come say hello and tell me where you saw me right here on this show.
Absolutely, Keon Sports. I'll have to get a press credential for that. We just had, it was CYN was in town the other night at the Odeon here in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Got a credential for that. So I was with Braun and EC3, Michael Hutter, another guy who grew up in Ohio, Willoughby. But yeah, real quick then, because I was not aware of this. That's huge. Al Snow is the best, not the biggest name, but the best actual guest we've ever had on this show.
Yeah, right.
Came out. Oh my God. Like
now he's number 2 then, I guess.
Oh yeah, you'll have to tell him. But I'm gonna pull back the curtain for everybody. So Al Snow, right? You see this guy on TV. He's hilarious. You follow him on Twitter. He's real funny, and you think like, okay, like I thought, all right, he's gonna come on the show. He's probably gonna be telling jokes. It's gonna be a laugh, right? He is the most intelligent human being I think I've ever spoken to in my life. Like
yes.
The interview was dead serious. Like it had a serious tone from the minute go. I think I booked him for like 45 minutes. I think he went like 90, and it was just insane. Like he was so good, and like his insight was tremendous. I would tell people, go buy his book. His book, it's hilarious, but his book is so honest. He talks about things like with his ex-wife, having like a million different things. We're like, wow, this guy's really honest about like the sacrifices it takes to be a wrestler and so on down the road. So I'm sorry, I just had a geek, total fanboy Mark moment there for Al Snow. He's my all
right, man.
Guest. Just I can't. I'm gonna send you the link to listen to his interview because it's just tremendous. So hey, I'm gonna come down and check you guys out. Then sound good? I'll get a little press conference. Some fun.
Yeah, man. Please do come down. You'll be our guest. Let us know. You get a hold of us. Let us know. We'll get you in, and
I love it.
We may even give you a free ticket. Okay, of course we would. But yeah, come down, check it out, man. It'll be fun, and I hope that people, will come and join it live, because it's something different about seeing it live and in person and being in the historic Davis Arena as opposed to watching it on TV. But either or. And then we have pay-per-views every other month. And then we have our big we call it our big TV pay-per-view, but it's just our big TV show leading to the next pay-per-view. And that's happening June 2nd. So we get a lot of good stuff going on here, man. And there is a lot of good talent here in OVW right now. And more is coming. So just, keep your eyes out for OVW, because these are the guys you'll be seeing on AEW and WWE next.
Absolutely agreed. Completely agreed. Thank you again. And yeah, I'm definitely going to talk to you soon. I'm just not saying it. I will actually talk to you soon. So
all right. Sounds good, bud. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Have fun today. Thank you.